All right, and welcome back to another week's episode of Age Like Wine podcast. And this week we're going to be reviewing something a little bit different. But before we get to that, this week's episode is, of course, joined by
Matthew
and Peter.
and not me. And I'm here just for the recording part. But anyway, my part's done, and I'll let these guys take over.
Thank you very much, Will. Welcome everybody. Welcome back to the Age Like Wine podcast. This week we're doing something that we've only done one time before, and we are doing a video game. It's kind of out there, and the reason Will is not joining us is because it's a game he hasn't played, but it's a game that Peter and I have both played, and I think know a decent amount about, at least enough to give our opinions and discuss whether it's worth trying out or like watching a playthrough or whatever. Do you want to tell the people what this game is, Peter?
Oh, sure. Yeah. So today we're reviewing the game, a little known game made in the land down under by Studio Team Cherry, Hollow Knight. Now, if you don't know what Hollow Knight is basically like a Metroidvania, which is like a action-adventure 2D game where basically you're going through... Actually, you can probably explain it better than me.
So I can do that. So a Metroidvania is a genre where, like Peter said, it's typically 2D, and it's an open world 2D environment in which you use unlockables to progress the story and unlock new areas. Instead of it, like imagine Mario, you go from level 1 to level 2 to level 3. Instead of that, imagine Mario unlocks a plunger, and that lets him enter a toilet, and through the toilet he can get to underwater levels. Something like that instead of the forward level design you might be used to in, platformers. So that's kind of what Hollow Knight is, and Hollow Knight is different. It's a pretty to the bones. I don't know how to describe it. It's like pretty par for the course for Metroidvania. It's like it hits all the notes that a Metroidvania would like to hit, that it would hit. So if you see the genre, Hollow Knight is a very good example of it. Anywho,
some say that Hollow Knight is the best Metroidvania of all time. Now, our resident Metroidvania expert here, Funky Frog or Matt,
that's me.
would you care to give your opinion as to whether or not the statement is true or not?
It's pretty tempting to say that this is at least one of, if not the best Metroidvanias, simply because it does it very, very well. It's a clean game. I will say that much. It's a very clean game. It feels like you always have something you can do, something you can unlock. The world is very pretty and like worth exploring in a way. Like all the areas are unique from one another. And I don't know. I mean, I don't want to spoil what my review will be entirely, but I will say that it's easily in the top 3 of Metroidvanias that at least I've played.
I think Guacamelee is the best Metroidvania of all time.
Wow, that is a spicy take. That burns me.
Guacamelee 1 and 2 are on par with Metroid 1 and 2.
Along with a little browser game known as Starcade.
Star Raid
or Star Raid or whatever it is. They're all a little better. But okay, so we should explain kind of what Hollow Knight is from, I guess, like in a synopsis kind of way. So you are a little bug with a needle for a sword, and you land in this world of like bugs that are being brainwashed, and you are trying to fight your way through and discover what happened here. Essentially, you don't know what's going on or why bugs are acting the way they are. There are some bugs that are your friends, and you work with them to discover what's going down in Hollow Nest, which is the world that you're set in. And then ultimately you become more powerful and fight more and more powerful enemies and just explore what the world has to offer. And in doing so, you get to discover some of the lore of the game as well. So I got to ask, first things first, with this game, kind of, it's really the first thing you see. What do you think of the art style, Peter?
Yeah, so I was going to mention that. So if you just look at the game, like if you want to play this game or buy the game, one thing you would notice when you look at anything Hollow Knight related is that it is very aesthetically pleasing. Like, the designs are clean, and the thing is, I hate bugs personally. Like, I'm scared of fucking bugs. But Hollow Knight manages to make bugs look cool, and they look cool. The main character's cool, and everything in the game is just very aesthetically pleasing to look at. Sure, there's some gross parts, I would say, because there's like these little pus sacks sometimes, but other than that, character design is really cool, and honestly, the art design is, lack of a better word, great. Like, I think that just based off first impressions, if you just look at the game, it's actually just very pleasing to the eyes. I think most people probably agree on that, unless, like, I don't know.
I don't think that's a like surprising opinion at all. Personally, I think that Hollow Knight, when you just look at it, it's kind of a unique art style. Every piece of it is kind of, it's like if you paused it at any moment, it would be aesthetically pleasing. It would be like a painting, kind of, which I think is really cool. All the character designs, like Peter was saying, if you're scared of bugs, if that's a concern coming into this, it kind of doesn't totally need to be. Unless you're like deathly afraid, then maybe avoid the game.
Honestly, most things don't really look like a bug. Like,
no, they don't. They're more like reminiscent of a bug.
Like the most bug-like features you would probably see are like, I don't know, like a mantis's like claws, but like they're very cartoony and like, you know, flies wings or something. But like besides that, like nothing really too out of the ordinary or super like graphic to like scare you.
Yeah.
So
it's like if you were afraid of a mouse and Mickey Mouse doesn't bother you, then this game won't really bother you with bugs, most likely.
Pretty much, unless you watch those cursed videos. But that's besides the point.
Definitely don't do that. You don't got to do that.
Yeah.
Anywho.
Yeah. So the next thing I really want to talk about is like in terms of gameplay, because obviously a game has to be fun for you to play it, right?
It's true.
I would say that the gameplay in this game is also very pleasing. For me personally, I've only played like a handful of Metroidvanias, which are like some Metroid games, and then, you know, a couple Castlevania games, hence the name Metroidvania, right? I haven't played Guacamelee, that was just a meme. And so this is probably my first Metroidvania in like a while to play, because I think the last one I played was like Castlevania Eclipse back like on the Nintendo DS, and like back when I was like in high school or like younger than that.
That's a good one.
So when I played this game, it was that I was worried about the gameplay because it looks weird. But honestly, this game is like, I really like games that are like very good for the casual player, and also very good for like, it has like a easy gateway to entry, but then a very like high ceiling, you know. Hence, like, you'll see a lot of people when they play Hollow Knight do speedruns, because the game is kind of designed to do speedruns, but at the same time you can take your time and like pace yourself at the same time, and it's just like designed for both players, which I think like makes a very good game in terms of like gameplay design, you know.
Oh, I totally agree. I want to say on that note that the game kind of lets you explore the way that you want to explore to a degree. Like you have a lot of options when you kind of land in the world, you know? Like you can go to the fungal wastelands real early on and try to get past the little mushroom dudes. You can try to go to the green path and fight off like moving bushes and stuff. There's a lot of ways you can play it, and it doesn't force you to take a designated path often. sometimes you need to like get a certain power up to go somewhere. But really, if you can't go somewhere, you can likely go somewhere else, and you're very rarely trapped in a corner with how you play the game, which I think is really cool. And to your other point, yeah, the game does feel really, really good to play. It's very fluid action. You're dashing around. You're bouncing on the enemies with your knife. You're with your little needle. You're trying to keep yourself alive because they have kind of a cool feature with death where you like keep your soul where you die. We can go back over that in a minute, but you're just trying to juggle all these things, and it is pretty kind to a casual player. And if you are someone who gets a bit sweatier and likes to try a bit harder in a game, it has that too. There's a lot of gauntlets you have to go through, like very difficult bosses. Like the game has some difficulty spikes. I won't say that it's all casual. Like you won't have the same luck you will playing, let's say, I don't know, like
Call of Duty.
Like Call of Duty. You won't have that same ease that you do in this game at some points. You will have to die a few times and learn the boss's patterns and do that sort of thing, which is cool. I think it's cool that it gives you a chance to grow. And there are some bosses that really test your patience, which is fun.
Yeah, I will say one gripe I do have about the game, which is like to like get to like the next topic we could talk about, is I personally, when it comes to like video games in general, I'm not the biggest fan of backtracking. I just like I don't really mind backtracking, but sometimes it can be annoying in video games. In Hollow Knight, there's quite a bit of backtracking, not so much where like it annoyed the hell out of me, but like if you don't like backtracking in a video game, I'm just warning you, it's there. Basically, like in the game, like Matt was mentioning, you attain power-ups, and so there's some areas you can't access throughout the game. And plus, the map in this game, which is like what I want to talk about, it's probably one of the biggest maps in like a Metroidvania I've ever seen.
I think it actually is.
Is it
the biggest map? Yeah.
It's like
really
it's a huge
incredible
map. So like sometimes it's like gonna be difficult because like you're gonna like lose track of where you are because of how big the map is, and like you're not gonna remember every spot where like you had to backtrack to unless like somehow you remember. I don't know how. They only give you like 2 pins to like set waypoints, but
true. Well, you can buy more, but yeah,
that's true. Yeah, essentially, like if you don't like backtracking, I'm just warning you. Like the game is actually pretty grand in scale, and then there is quite a bit of backtracking, but like I don't think it really takes away from the experience, though. There's not that much, but I just wanted to mention that.
I think that's a good point. There is some backtracking. They do a decent job about making the save points, which are benches in the game, pretty accessible so that if you're dying somewhere a lot, you can get back there easily. And then there's fast travel within the game, which is a pretty fair system. But I will say that when you backtrack, you're gonna find that like the earlier stages or whatever can still kind of like do its damage to you if you're not like paying attention, you know? Because I was even playing today, and I was backtracking from the royal waterways back through the city, and I was still getting beat up by a lot of the just normal minions. So the game sometimes requires you to like keep your brain on to a degree, even with backtracking. But I think that's kind of fun.
Yeah, I agree. And backtracking is not always a bad thing. I kind of mentioned it as like a gripe just because like modern like games these days just make you backtrack for the sake of backtracking. But in this game, the whole map is like a really big map, and like each area, like what I like about this game is that each area of the map is very unique. But not only that, like they kind of have an explanation for like why they're there and why they're designed in a certain like, and that kind of like extends upon like the atmosphere of the game and like the lore of the game, and it's just like these little minor details make like video games like very great to play. and like the developers don't really need to put them there, but they do. And my boys at Team Cherry at the Land Down Under, I'm glad they did. So
I totally agree. I think this game kind of just has a lot of heart put into it. It feels like you're not wasting your time when you're going to like certain corners of the map that you might expect to be useless or whatever. Like you'll find a fountain of soul or something, or a little shopkeeper that'll upgrade your needle. You know, things you kind of don't need to fill the world with, but they really do. And on that like idea, I think that really shines through with some of the characters you interact with too. There really aren't a lot. The world is mostly made up of bugs that are trying to like kill you, bugs that are trying to test you or whatever. But there are some bugs that aren't corrupted and that will talk with you and they'll sell to you, or they'll just explain some of the story and the world to you. And they're really like cool to talk to because it paints this whole picture of this kingdom of bugs that I think is pretty dang interesting. I don't know. Do you know anything about the lore in this game, Peter?
I mean, I watched like that 8-hour video. Yeah.
Yeah. So we should mention that this game.
It's like Dark Souls, I would say.
Oh yeah.
Well, I mean, I think saying it's like Dark Souls is a little too much. 'Cause Dark Souls is like you literally read the item descriptions and have to piece it together yourself. Hollow Knight's actually a lot better about the lore and stuff like that. Like it's supposed to be mysterious, I would say. I don't know if I'm wrong, but yeah, I think the atmosphere is supposed to be mysterious, and you're supposed to be like piecing the puzzle. Like you're supposed to be piecing the puzzle pieces together throughout the game by like interacting with the characters in the game, like Matt was mentioning. And so you kind of get glimpses of like the lore, what the lore is, and you get a good idea about what's going on. And yeah, I mean,
I will say regarding the lore that the story is definitely not just handed to you on a silver platter. What Peter was saying about piecing the story together is like very, very accurate. You have to do a lot of your own sort of detective work to really see what's going on. All the different kingdoms have different, like all the different kingdoms within this larger kingdom have reasons that they're corrupted. They have reasons that they have what they have as far as power-ups you can obtain. It's really interesting if you like dig into it, and this is the kind of game that you can definitely go down a rabbit hole as far as what the story is, what the story will be, why you're there, because no answers are really just handed to you. You don't walk up to Deep Nest and you say, or Dirtmouth, which is like the starting area, and say, hey, and no one shows up and says, hey, welcome to Dirtmouth. You need to go fight the monster down deep in the Deep Nest and free all of us from its corruption. There's nothing like that. It definitely goes in the path of show, don't tell, which I think is kind of cool. Like if you don't care about the story, it doesn't bore you with it. If you're interested in it, you can definitely, definitely make that happen. You can definitely find out about the story if that's something you're interested in. And I think that's a cool thing. I like when my games are more than just the gameplay, at least personally.
I agree.
Sweet. I'm curious.
Yeah. So no, ask away.
No, you go ahead.
No, you ask first.
All right, fine. I was gonna say, I'm curious. What do you think about the bosses? Because bosses in Metroidvanias can kind of be hit or miss. Do you think that they were fair? That's really the big question.
All right. Yeah, I was gonna talk about like difficulty later, but I guess we could just talk about it now.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So for me personally, I didn't actually find this game like that difficult as like most people said, and I don't know why. Maybe it's because I thought the gameplay was just super smooth. So like, I found it like easier to like play the bosses and everything. Now I'm not saying like I'm the best player in the world. I'm not saying I can like do like the option where like you only have one life and then I can
Oh.
do things like that. I'm not saying that.
Hardcore, right?
Yeah, I'm not saying that. But for me, I think it was like relatively easier than like when my other friend was playing, for example. And I don't know why that is. As for difficulty, I would say like it's moderate in terms of difficulty. There are bosses and enemies in areas that are, pretty hard, I would say. But there are some that are like on the easier side. So I think it has a good mix of everything. As for if the bosses are like fair or not, I think the bosses are pretty fair. Like each of them don't, except for one boss. This is one boss I just hated. But
Is that the spider boss?
I don't think it was the spider boss. It was like there was like one boss that like you were following around like another Hollow Knight, and then he turned out to be like this monster.
Oh yeah.
I hated that boss so much. But besides that boss, I didn't really have an issue with any of the bosses. And yeah, I think it has a good mix of both. So if you're worried about the game's too hard for you, it's like every boss has its own unique pattern, and you learn the pattern, and then you beat the boss. I mean, it sounds simpler than it actually is, but that's essentially what it is.
Yeah. You can kind of just slam your head against the wall with bosses to a degree.
So, some bosses are, have more difficult patterns than others, but at the end of the day, like I think if you try enough, you'll eventually get it. It's not impossible, I would say. So what are your thoughts on?
I mostly agree with you. Where I'm gonna kind of differ, not in opinion, but just in how I approach the difficulty in this game is I'm definitely not someone who's very good at video games. Like I have to work a little bit harder than Peter does to succeed at these kind of games, I guess, in a way. And I will say that I think the game can be kind of difficult if you let it be difficult. There are a lot of bosses where you'll go in, you'll get you'll get smacked around real quick and almost immediately. All right, thanks, Will. You'll almost immediately be like, okay, this boss is going to be really difficult. Here's the thing that the game does really well, though. If you're having trouble with a boss, it's likely that you maybe don't have the power-ups you need or like the tools in your kit that would really help you beat the boss. Like if you're struggling with a boss, you can probably go somewhere else, find a needle upgrade, and it'll help you with the boss. Like you're not locked into fighting them, the tools you have are only limited by what you choose to go out and search for. Normally there are options to make the boss fight easier, which is super nice for someone like me who struggles with that kind of thing. I will say that much. But I don't think it's frustratingly hard. Like Dark Souls kind of is frustratingly hard. This game is pretty fair. I think all the bosses, their patterns are fair. The way they hit you is pretty fair. You don't feel like, oh, great, I could not dodge that attack. You just feel like, oh, great, I didn't dodge that attack. So I really think if difficulty is a factor for you, don't let it be. And because you can beat this game. It's very beatable. You just need to be a bit consistent. That's what I have to say about that. Do you kind of agree, Peter, that if you're struggling with a boss, you'd be able to go make it easier on yourself?
Oh yeah, definitely. I remember there was just one boss in the beginning that was an optional boss. And I think I tried it like 10 times and I just got destroyed. And then I got one upgrade and I beat it on my first try. So it's yeah. I mean, the game definitely gives you a lot of like options. They give you a Hadouken in the game too. So I mean, like
they do.
There's a lot of different things in the game and like a lot of different tools that make certain boss fights easier, for example, and just make the game like easier in general. Like once you get them, you're like, oh, how nice! I can't believe this part was hard. And you're like, oh man, if I just had this item now. So
it really, yeah, there are items in the game that completely kind of change how you play, which I freaking love. I thought the items were really cool. For the most part, they were pretty chill, but when I got to actually using some of the soul power-ups or whatever, which are like bigger attacks, I found the game a lot more fun because I had used the needle basically only, and I'd only used soul to heal myself, you know. But
Definitely
once
me.
I started using it to actually attack, it was a whole new game. I was a fan. I thought it was cool.
Definitely agree. Yeah, you know what a crazy thing about this game is to me is that like this game had to get like crowdfunded in order to start.
I did hear about that. Yeah.
Isn't that crazy? And like the game turned out to look like not only like great but also like feel great to play. Um, it's like really mind blowing to me because I remember the first time I played it, like my first reaction was like, wow, like this feels like a triple A like budget game. But like I feel like it's not a triple A budget game. I don't think they poured like millions into the game, which is like very absurd to me. Because like you would think this game is like would have like the biggest budget, like Spider-Man PS4 or something, but like it doesn't. And that's what just makes it like even like cooler to me. I think it's just my boys at Studio Cherry, the land down under. But yeah, I just wanted to mention that. I mean, the game's obviously good enough because like there's a sequel coming out. Everyone's hyped about that. So
Oh geez, when is it? It was supposed to come out last year, but it's called Silk Song for our listeners who
like
are
a prequel.
looking to do research.
I just want to throw out a
Um,
disclaimer for listeners. If you were hearing Minecraft sounds, it was me playing, but I forgot to turn down the Minecraft audio. So yeah, I'm sorry.
Wait, really?
We're in season 3. This can't be happening.
Well, I mean, this is the first time I've recorded, but actually talking. So
No, you're good. Sorry, listeners.
yeah, I mean, a couple of zombie sounds, some spiders. It's just Minecraft. Please don't DMCA us.
Okay.
All right. Anywho, well,
Another thing I want to talk about is
Let's hear it.
the music. You know.
oh geez, let's talk about the music. Can I start?
Yeah, go for it.
All right. The freaking city. What is it? City of Tears. Is that what it's called?
Yeah, City of Tears.
City of Tears smacks so much harder than it needs to. When I first played this game, I think it was 2018. I remember literally literally texting someone and saying, "You got to listen to the Hollow Knight soundtrack," literally just so they can listen to City of Tears. And it immediately joined my music that I would listen to while playing video games. I don't know. It really struck a chord with me. And a lot of the music kind of did that. I thought all of it was it's very like orchestral. Is that the right word?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, it's very orchestral. Like it's very beautiful and flowing. It feels like part of the world instead of just like a theme song for an area. None of it gets like annoying. If you didn't even like think about it, you wouldn't notice it while fighting. But if you stop and like take in your surroundings, it paints a very like pretty picture of what's going on. You know? I
Yeah.
really, really appreciate the music. What did you think, Peter?
I really like the music too. One of my favorite song or one of my favorite area of music was Green Path, which is like one of the first areas in the game, so it's not really a spoiler.
Right.
And that was probably one of my favorite areas in the game too. I know for a fact that our boy Henry,
Oh yeah.
a guest that's been on the podcast,
Friend of the show.
Yeah, I messaged him about what his thoughts on the game were, and he also said that Green Path was like his favorite area. So
That's interesting. Can I ask why it was your favorite area?
that is a great question. I think I like Green Path the most, mostly because, well, first like the music, for example, right?
Right.
But I also think like Green Path was the first area in the game, at least for me, where I was just like kind of taken like by surprise because prior to the game, I didn't really know much about the game. All I really knew was that there's bugs, and then there's that 3-hour video about explaining the lore of the game. And Green Path is actually a very like small area relative to like the other like areas in the game. And I think the reason why I liked it so much was because not only was like it kind of like short and sweet, but it also like, it also had everything that like, represented what the game had, great music. It showed off like new mobs and like the diversity of like how you could play the game and different paths that you can take and like little secrets that you can find in the game if like you're curious enough to like look around, and like to also be an area where like you have to come backtrack. So I think personally for me, like because it was that kind of like first area for me, like it kind of just stuck in my head the most.
Right.
Kind of talked too long there, but yeah, I think that's why it's my favorite area. Mostly just because of the music and like it kind of was like a good introduction for me personally to like how the game worked.
Oh
And, like,
yeah, I think it is. I think it is too. It's a bit after, like, it's not exactly a tutorial area. There's a bit of a simpler area, but it is very early on, and you get to learn kind of. Yeah, you do really start to play the game then. Everything else is kind of gray and washed out. It's very early on, and then you hit this green path and everything's like flourishing. There's flowers, there's grass, there's unique like monsters you get to fight, unique bugs, I guess, that are coming out and taking over this environment. And it does make it make you aware of how like unique each area of the game is, which I think is a super cool aspect. Like, and it feels like it all flows together. Like you don't go from the green path to like a lava area like you would in maybe like a Pokemon game or something. Like it feels like the world flows. Like as you get down south of the green path, if it connects to fungal wasteland, then you start to see mushrooms poking out from the grass and stuff. Like it's very natural. I think they drew a really good map and they stuck to it. I don't know.
I definitely agree.
That's my take on it. My favorite area, if we're like going to go into that, is probably City of Tears. Just the music and the ambiance, and it kind of sets the stage for what's actually going on because there's that statue in the middle of the town that gives you a little more history into what's going on, and it shows that the bugs had a civilization, which is kind of a cool development because at the time you were just fighting like angry orange-eyed bugs and you're like, what's going on? So I thought that was cool. That really mesmerized me. And the music kicking in when you're sitting on a bench with another bug that you talk with, definitely got me in a mood. Got me in a mood to game hard on that game specifically. So
I will say that the atmosphere of the game is like very nice. Like once you start playing, you kind of just want to finish it. But it also gives you like the leeway to like kind of take a break if you don't want to play it for a couple of days to like come back to it. So it is nice in that regard.
oh yeah, I will say that's kind of a common problem I have with Metroidvanias is that if you do leave the game and like don't play it for a week or a month or whatever, it can be kind of hard to come back because you don't know where you've been, you don't know where you're supposed to, where you should go really, and you're kind of just banging your head against the wall trying to find what you're missing, like going through wikis and stuff. And because the game isn't linear, it can be hard to find what you're missing. For the most part, though, I don't really have that problem in Hollow Knight because you can go to the surface, you can talk to the elder bug, and he'll tell you, I really think you should check out the city. And it's like, oh, shoot, I should go to the city and look around, see what's up. So I think they did a good job with that. Geez, all this talking about Hollow Knight, I really can't wait for the sequel. I hope it's good.
Probably gonna be good.
I think it'll be good.
And
But yes.
I trust my boys in the land down under. So
Team Cherry.
they should change it to like Team Wallaby or something. I wonder what inspired the name Team Cherry. Actually,
I like the name Team Cherry, and I like what their little logo is, like a little gaming cherry.
Pretty
Kind of
good.
cute. Kind of cute. I was even before the podcast, I was looking at their Twitter to see if they had said anything about Silk Song, because it's kind of a meme in the community that it's never going to come out. But apparently, there's been news recently that they're still working on it, and it's close to being done in development.
So
So
the game is pretty much like done.
it must be right.
I think it's done, and like the only thing that they have to really do is like take out the bugs or something. Like not literal bugs, but like coding.
No,
bugs.
I was like, what?
And like the coding bug. That's why.
The code, yeah, the
Make sure the
coding-
game like runs smooth and stuff like that. I think that's
Like
probably the only thing they have to do. If I'm being honest, like
I kind of agree. They got to market it too, because they started talking about this game back in like 2018 when I first played the game. When Hollow Knight came out in 2016. And so 2 years later they talked about it. Game's still not out 4 years later. But I'm hoping this is the year, and I'm hoping we get it, because it was dang good. This Metroidvania, what you were saying about it being like AAA quality, it really, really is. Like, I've played Ori and the Blind Forest, and that's an actual AAA game. And
wait, is that really a AAA game?
yeah, it is.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. No wonder it looks so good. Okay.
Yeah, it looks really good. But that's a AAA game. That's a AAA example of a Metroidvania. And to see Hollow Knight do what it does, and having played both of them, like, they're definitely comparable. I could even say Hollow Knight's like got some things up on Ori, personally. But
Is Ori your favorite? Is that what you're saying?
I don't know. Ori is
Like
kind of
Will o' the
short.
Wisps?
Honestly, Ori is shorter than Hollow Knight, lengthwise.
Have you played Will o' the Wisps?
I have not played the new one, no.
Yeah.
I definitely want
It's
to.
because that game is like $80.
Yes. Yeah, that's why I haven't played it.
Shit doesn't go on fucking sale, bro.
I know. I got Ori and the Blind Forest for like $10, so now I'm just spoiled.
I really want to play Ori and the Blind Forest. I don't own it because it's a little well, it's actually not that expensive.
If it goes on sale, you should get it, or I can share my Steam account, because it's really good. You should stream it.
Stream it. Oh yeah, I'm not gonna promote my.
Yeah, you can promote your stream.
No, I'm not streaming that. Yeah, so
Twitch.tv/Juicer52 JUSTER52. Check him out. He streams a bunch of Osu and various content. He's a variety streamer. All right, thanks, vid listeners.
okay, well, thank you, William, for that. Anyways, yeah, so the game. Actually, the last point I actually want to talk about before like we end the podcast today is that the game, if you're really concerned about whether or not the game's worth the money, if it has like enough content for you to play the game or not, I would say so. I personally finished the game in like 17 to 18 hours of playtime, which was like about 3 or 4 days of like playing straight. And I found that like the content, there was a lot of content in the game, and honestly, I didn't really rush through the game, but I didn't do everything that you could in the game.
Oh yeah, there's a lot to be done. If you're a collector, like if you like to collect in games, you've got a lot of options.
Yeah, I think like you can go up to like 112% in the game in terms of completion, and that's like not counting like the DLC too.
Right.
So like that's just a lot of content. Like I finished around like 70 or 80% completion around like 17 hours in. So just imagine like how much longer you can play the game if like you obviously if you took more time into it and like did more of the collectibles and all that jazz. You'd probably be looking at like 25 to 30 hours, if not more, to like the game. And that's just the base game. And there's like 2 expansion packs of the game that I heard were actually pretty good. So like there's just a lot of content for the game.
And we should talk about the price point. It's like $15.
Yeah, it's really honestly it's like worth your honestly this game could be worth like 25 and it'd probably be worth your money. So
I kind of agree. I think that it's a huge bang for your buck. If you're a person who likes platformers, if you're a person who likes, if the Metroidvania genre that I described is interesting to you, there's like no better place to start than Hollow Knight, in my opinion. And I mean, I'm a big Metroidvania fan, and I think it's really, really good. It's no Guacamelee, but
Guacamelee 1 and 2 are probably the pinnacle of Metroidvania.
honestly, they shouldn't be called Metroidvanias. They should be Guacamelees.
Guacameleas? I don't know.
Guacamelians.
Guacameleon.
Exactly. All
Yeah,
right.
so yeah, I mean, something else that Henry wanted me to mention on this podcast, obviously before we get to our reviews and stuff, is
Let's
that
hear it.
he thought that, he also agreed, he thought the music and lore were great. He thought that some fights were irritating, like we were mentioning, but he still got through everything. Another thing I wanted to note that depending on like what percentage you complete the game, there's like a different ending, and there's like 5 different endings in the game. So, I mean, that gives you incentive to play the game more if you play it.
It's true.
So
I want to say something regarding this game. This is maybe not like a big review thing, but I think this is a fun game it's kind of a fun game to play with others. It's not multiplayer in any capacity, but to play it in front of people, like if you have a significant other that likes to watch, or you like to watch your significant other play games, it's a lot of fun to make those decisions on where to go and to watch the boss fights and decide what to do with your geo, which is the money in the game. I think it's a fun game to like for entertainment purposes. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. I think it's fun because I've gotten to watch Peter play it, and I've gotten to watch Henry play it, and Henry would always be texting me about this game. It's like there's a lot of fun in the game. Like it's just a fun game.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just a point I wanted to bring up.
no, I definitely agree with that. Like if I ever get in a relationship, which I'm just gonna stay single forever in my life actually.
It's true.
But if I ever do, it's definitely be one of the games that I probably like make her play, if I'm being honest.
I think it's a great game for, honestly.
I agree. So that being said, do you think it's time to get to the reviews?
I'm game.
Hurry up. All right.
All right.
So-
well, I guess we'll go ahead and do our reviews.
I can go first because this is Matt's game, so
It's true.
I don't have an age-like rating, so I mean, Henry said he gave it 9 out of 10. I probably give the game a 9.5 out of 10. Like I said, the only gripe I really had about the game was like backtracking. I just don't like personally to, I don't like backtracking like a lot, and sometimes in the game I felt like I had to do that, but like not too much. But like I think it was a little bit of a takeaway for me. But other than that, I think everything else about the game was great. Like atmosphere of the game was great. Number one for me, gameplay was smooth, very responsive, and just felt great to play. Very aesthetically pleasing to look at. Music was great. The boss fights were also very fun, and the game wasn't like very too long, so I think the game like a 9.5. It's available like on all platforms, so like Switch, PC, Xbox, and PS4. So if you want to buy it, you should buy it. And that's my thoughts. Definitely should buy the game. Give it a try.
All righty. I'm gonna keep it pretty simple here and just go ahead and give my number rating. I would it be too bold and brash to give it a 10?
I think you should give it a Guacamelee.
I'm gonna give it a Guacamelee out of 10. So an 11.
So like a 0.
No, I'm actually gonna give this game a 10 out of 10. There are problems with it which may look like it would like bring it down a notch, but I really think this game is like heads above other games in the genre. It really sets the bar very high for what this genre can bring to its customers. Like there's a huge amount of bang for your buck, huge world, huge map, all of it's integrated. You have all these options for bosses to fight and power-ups to get that. And then there's crests that change your gameplay. We didn't even get into that. And it's just so much. There's so many options, and the art style is beautiful. The music's beautiful. It's really just a really perfect package. And I don't know how they're gonna really live up to it with Silksong, but I hope they do. I think they will, and I hope they do. But it's gonna be a tough thing to deliver. But I think Team Cherry has something very special here. And I would recommend this game even to like non-gamers, which isn't something I would typically do, but I just think it's super fun and would recommend, obviously. It's 10 out of 10.
All right, with that being said, we'll end the podcast off here. Make sure to check out our YouTube channel, Age Like Wine Podcast, where we upload the VOD for our podcast every Monday at 8 a.m. And also make sure to check out our Twitter at ALW_podcast, where you can tweet at us what you want to see, if you liked the episode, what you didn't like about the episode, anything of that likes. That being said, thank you for tuning in. Make sure to stay safe, wear masks and all that jazz.
Absolutely.
And we'll catch you next week when we review something. I don't remember what was on the schedule, but something else.
We're definitely going to review it. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a good rest of your day. Drink water. All right. Bye.